Sure. Well, the Barilko story is quite extraordinary. So, for those who maybe don't know the name, Bill Barilko was a player with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played 5 seasons with the Maple Leafs and won the Stanley Cup with the team in 4 of those 5 seasons. Quite a
Wow.
story. A defensive defenseman for the most part, certainly wasn't a goal scorer, heavy checking, defensive defenseman. Anyway, 1951, every game in the final against the Montreal Canadiens goes into overtime. In the final game, the Leafs are up 3 games to 1 at that point. In the fifth game, the game goes into overtime once again. Barilko takes a chance. He was told not to go deep and get caught because there were guys like Maurice Richard who could certainly score and take advantage of the play. But he saw a loose puck at around the faceoff circle just to the right of the Montreal Canadiens goaltender Jerry McNeil. And he took a chance. He gambled and he won. He dove in after it, took a backhand, and it went over McNeil's shoulder into the goal. So he became the instant Stanley Cup champion. 1951, he couldn't go anywhere without being lauded, free meals, free drinks, whatever it happened to be. End of that summer, he's getting ready for training camp, and his dentist up in Timmins, Ontario, Northern Ontario, says, listen, you want to go for one last fishing trip? And Bill says, sure, I'll go. It sounds like fun. The dentist had already asked a couple of other people who either couldn't go or they deferred to Bill Barilko. Anyway, they go up to a place called Seal River, just off of Hudson Bay in the Quebec side of Hudson Bay shoreline. And they go up there and they're fishing for something called Arctic char, and they have a great time. And that's the last that anybody saw of them. They came back, they refueled on the way, and that's the last anybody literally saw them. But the plane never returned. And it started the greatest manhunt in Canadian history, Canadian aerial history. They looked and looked and looked, and people scoured the forests. The planes flew over a broad area of the province, and there was no sign of either Barilko or his dentist Henry Hudson, or of the plane anywhere. Now you have to remember that the forests are really dense in Northern Ontario, so it was almost impenetrable to see. Anyway, the Leafs had to continue on without their star defenseman. The 50s were not very fruitful for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They made the playoffs a few times, but they didn't win any more Stanley Cups. It was a tough time for them all in all. And the Leafs don't win another Stanley Cup until 1962. Ironically, the same year that the plane and the skeletal bodies of Hudson and Barilko are found. So the curse of Bill Barilko, the parallels are uncanny. So it's a story that I knew about. And I was sitting at the Hockey Hall of Fame that day, and I noticed that several people came in and asked about the particular photo. There's a great photo. You can see Barilko from behind scoring the goal on Jerry McNeil. It's a great shot by a brother team called the Turovsky brothers. And they were very well known in the 40s and 50s and late 30s as well. But anyway, so people kept requesting this photo. So I asked the gentleman at the front desk, is that usual that so many people would ask about this photo? And he said, other than the Bobby Orr goal of 1970, it's the most requested photo that we have in the Hockey Hall of Fame archives. And you have to know there are 3 million shots there. So it's quite a feat to itself. So I thought, that's interesting. And I started to think, well, wait a minute here. Hang on. That's the most requested photo. One of our volunteers is a lady named Ann Klisenich, just happened to be Bill Barilko's sister. And she came in every week and was a lovely, lovely lady and a great friend of mine as well. She often brought her husband and her son as well. And so there was that Barilko tie. And then I used to work in the music industry prior to working in hockey. And I had worked for a company called MCA. One of the artists that we have is a band called the Tragically Hip out of Kingston.
Yep.
And they had recorded a song called 50 Mission Cap. And I had worked with the band during their second album, or their second full album anyway, the Road Apples album. And so I knew the guys very well. So I thought, wait a minute. The photo, the archives, Ann Klisenich, sister, the Tragically Hip. I got to write this book. And so I made that my project and talked to everybody who knew anything about it, whether they were teammates, whether they were people who had fueled his plane, ex-girlfriends, you name it. And it was a probably the book I'm most proud of. It really was the right timing, and it's been optioned a couple of times for a film. It's never come to pass, but I think someday, whether I'm involved or not, I think someday someone will make a film of this. I just think people need to see and hear this story. It's just extraordinary how all the pieces kind of fit and sometimes didn't fit together to create a legend in hockey
Yeah,
history.